Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue the emotional journey in the love story of LyTuDiep and CEO James, a beautiful relationship now facing countless storms. In the previous video, James was on a business trip in Cambodia when he suddenly went completely out of contact. That left LyTuDiep anxious to the point of losing sleep, holding on to nothing but the silent hope that he was still safe. At the same time, Phat, a thug known in the underground world, received money from James's father with one purpose: to tear James and Diep apart. He not only threatened her, but even showed up in person to force her to leave James, leaving her shaken and terrified. So from here, where will everything go? James and LyTuDiep, two people separated by schemes, misunderstandings, and distance, can they overcome it all and find their way back to each other? Everything will be revealed in today's video. Let's watch together and see just how intense things will get. Inside the hospital room, thick with the smell of disinfectant, the cold white light shone down on the gaunt face of the woman lying motionless on the bed. Phat stood there, his hands clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned pale. Watching his mother breathe in weak, shallow gasps, her body thin to the point of skin and bone, it felt as if someone were squeezing his heart until it cracked. The doctor walked in, voice flat and emotionless, yet his words cut into Phat like a knife. "Your mother needs surgery soon. The cost, about 500 million. 500 million. The number hit Phat like a hammer to the skull. A man surviving on odd labor jobs, scraping by day to day, where was he supposed to find that kind of money? A flash of despair crossed his eyes, brief, but sharp enough to make anyone watching feel a sting in their chest. Phat stepped out of the room, trying to breathe deeply, but each breath stuttered halfway. Just as he walked into the hallway, he froze. James's father was standing there, hands in his pockets, posture rigid, as if he had already calculated every possible outcome. His gaze swept over Phat, sharp, cold, and full of hidden intentions. "If you want to save your mother, do exactly as I say." Not a single word wasted. Not a single breath more than necessary. Phat stood still for a few seconds, as if he had just heard his own heartbeat crash to the floor. He knew very well this wasn't a request, it was a noose, already looped around his neck. But his mother, she was all he had. The only person he had to protect, no matter what it cost. And there was only one way to keep her alive: take the money. Do what the man wanted. No hesitation, no time to consider the consequences, Phat nodded. A dry, brittle nod, enough to push him past the line between right and wrong. In exchange, he had to follow LyTuDiep, disrupt Little Nee's life, and sabotage the relationship between James and Diep in every way he could. Phat knew exactly what he was trading away. But in that moment, nothing mattered more than saving his mother. And from that second on, he was no longer the person he used to be. Meanwhile, in a place thousands of kilometers away from Diep, James was facing a reality he never chose. His father used the excuse of an urgent business trip and forced James to fly to Cambodia almost immediately. No time to prepare. No clear explanation. Just another cold, imposed decision, familiar and suffocating, from the man who had always controlled his life with money and power. James knew something felt off. But he couldn't refuse. Not to the father who raised him, and not from the position he was in. And only when he set foot in Cambodia did he truly sense the strange situation waiting for him. From the very first day, everything went wrong. His phone, always fully charged, because he never forgot to plug it in, suddenly shut down. No warning. No reason. And worse, he couldn't turn it back on. Social media, where he usually sent Diep a message every night, suddenly stopped showing any activity. No online status. No scene. No responses. Every attempt he made to call home was swallowed by complete silence. And Diep, calling internationally over and over, only to hear the same empty, chilling automated sound. The number you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Day after day, James seemed to vanish from the world map. He existed, he breathed, yet to Diep, and to everyone else, it was as if he had evaporated. No signals. No messages. No confirmation that he was even safe. And the scariest part. Only two people knew the truth behind everything. James's father, the mastermind pulling the strings, and Phat, the man who stepped into the mud for the money that would save his mother. Diep, however, knew nothing. She only sat there night after night, holding her cold phone, waiting for a single sign from the man she loved, unaware that everything was being orchestrated, piece by piece, in the cruelest way possible. To push her and James apart until there was no return. In the countryside, Diep's life continued following the familiar rhythm of long, routine days. In the morning, she lit the stove and cooked a pot of white rice for little Nee. By noon, she was already busy in the garden, pulling up vegetable stems, watering each row of soil in time for their meal. By late afternoon, she swept the house, hung the laundry, cleaned up, everything neatly done, just as she'd always done before. But despite how it looked, Diep never truly had a moment to rest. As she worked, she kept glancing toward little Nee, the child she loved as if she were her own blood. That smile used to make Diep's long days feel lighter, but these past few days, that smile had begun to fade. Because every single day, like a needle twisting deeper into her heart, Nee asked the same question. The little girl looked up with big round eyes, shimmering with tears, her voice tiny as if afraid of making anyone sad. "Auntie Diep, is Uncle James coming to visit me today?" Diep froze. That question, every day it returned. And each time, it felt like someone squeezed her chest until she couldn't breathe. She forced a small smile, though the corners of her lips trembled. "He hasn't come back from work yet, he'll visit in a few days." Just that simple sentence, but Diep had to swallow a storm of emotions just to say it. To Nee, it floated past as lightly as a breeze, but to Diep, it landed in her heart like a stone. Because a few days had dragged on far too long. Day after day. 1 week bleeding into another. And James was still completely gone. No messages. No missed calls. Not a single sign he was safe. Little Nee grew more withdrawn. Meals that used to be full of chatter now only echoed with the faint clinking of spoons touching bowls. Sometimes, she lifted her chopsticks only to set them down again, unable to eat. One day, she couldn't hold it in. She hid her face in her sleeve, trying to silence her sobs, but the more she held back, the more her small shoulders shook. I miss Uncle James." Diep watched her, her heart tearing apart. She pulled the child close, one arm wrapped tight around her, the other gently rubbing her back like soothing a child from a nightmare. Her voice was soft but trembling. "I'm here. It's okay, don't cry." But the truth was, Diep was even more terrified than the little girl. The tighter she held Nee, the more her heart burned with a nameless fear, a fear that had gnawed at her for days, leaving her sleepless night after night. And deep down, she knew with painful clarity. This was no longer just a normal business trip. Nights in the countryside always carry a very particular kind of silence, not gentle, but the kind so still that every worry in a person's heart grows louder by the minute. After tucking little Nee under the blanket, Diep stepped out of the room and closed the door softly so she wouldn't wake her. The small kitchen held only her. The old yellow bulb hanging from the wooden beam cast a faint glow, not fully bright, Not fully dim, just enough to see the furniture, yet enough to make everything look lonelier. Diep sat down on a faded plastic chair. The night breeze slipped in through the crack of the door, carrying a chill that made her shoulders tremble, but it still wasn't as cold as the heaviness tightening inside her chest. She took out her phone. The screen reflected her tired face, her eyes red from countless sleepless nights. Her fingers keyed in James's number, the number she could dial even with her eyes closed. The beep, beep, echoed through the empty kitchen, stretching for a few seconds but feeling like minutes. Then the automated message played, flat, mechanical, emotionless. The number you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. The sentence dropped straight into Diep's heart, tightening her chest. A hollow, icy feeling crept down her spine. She pressed call again. A second time. A third. A fourth. Each call was a tiny spark of hope, only to be extinguished instantly by that same lifeless message. The number you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Over and over. Cold. Merciless. As if intentionally reminding her that something was terribly wrong. Diep gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. But she kept dialing, as though stopping would mean admitting the truth she was too afraid to face. Just as Diep lowered her head, thinking Nee was fast asleep in the room, a tiny hand tugged softly at the hem of her shirt from behind. Startled, Diep turned around. Little Nee stood there, her eyes still heavy with sleep, messy hair falling over her forehead. Her voice was hoarse and small, yet sharp enough to cut straight through an adult's heart. "Auntie, call again. I want to talk to Uncle James." Just one sentence, and Diep felt her heart twist painfully. She crouched down and pulled the child close, gently stroking her soft hair as if comforting a frightened kitten. She forced a smile so strange she could feel it trembling on her own lips. "Okay. I'll call again." But when the child leaned her head against her shoulder, Diep turned away to hide the redness gathering in her eyes. Because the truth was, she didn't know what else to do. She didn't know where James was. She didn't know why he had vanished. And even worse, she didn't know if something terrible had happened. In the darkness, the two of them clung to each other, holding on to a fragile hope, a hope growing thinner each day, like a thread on the verge of snapping. That night, after a long day weighed down by nameless worries, Diep lay down but her heart refused to rest. The blanket felt cold, the room pitch dark, yet her mind was overflowing with questions. Where was James? Why hadn't he called? Had something happened? Eventually, exhaustion dragged her eyelids shut, and she fell asleep in a state that felt more like collapse than rest. But sleep didn't bring peace. It opened the door to something else, a nightmare so vivid it felt like a film projected right before her eyes. In her dream, she stood in the middle of a pitch-black forest. No moon. No light except a few weak rays filtering through the leaves, broken, cold, and unsteady. The wind howled through the towering trees, producing a long, eerie whistle like someone crying in the distance. The ground beneath her feet was wet and muddy, sucking at her sandals with every heavy step. The air was thick, suffocating, saturated with the smell of rotting leaves, even breathing felt forced. In the midst of that chaotic darkness, James appeared. Not the composed version she knew. Not the strong leader she was used to seeing. He was running. Running so desperately it looked as if his legs might snap at any moment. His breaths came in sharp, broken bursts, like the final gasps before losing consciousness. His shirt was torn to shreds by branches and something else unseen lurking in the dark. His right arm was covered in blood, bright red and dark dried streaks mixing into horrifying patterns down to his wrist. Sweat mixed with dirt streaked across his face, now pale with fear. Behind him, someone, or something, was chasing. Its features were impossible to make out, just a black figure moving unnaturally fast. Heavy footsteps pounded on the forest floor, crushing dead leaves with sharp, rapid crackles, each sound slicing straight into Diep's ears. James glanced back. A shred of moonlight broke through the treetops, catching his eyes filled with terror, despair, and a pain so sharp it made her chest clench. He screamed, his voice shattering as if he was running out of breath. "Diep! Diep! It's me!" She didn't know why she was in the forest with him. Didn't know why she couldn't run to him. Her body felt pinned in place, frozen, while every beat of her heart begged her to sprint toward him. Her chest tightened, her throat locked. Her voice cracked as she forced out a desperate cry. "James, run!" But the wind swallowed her scream whole. It didn't travel far. It didn't reach him. James kept running toward her, while the dark figure behind him crept closer and closer, ready to devour him whole. Then, a thud. Something yanked him backwards with brutal force. The light vanished instantly, as if someone had flipped a switch. Diep jolted upright. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts, like someone who had just sprinted for miles. Her entire body was drenched in cold sweat, her shirt clinging to her back, hair stuck to her forehead. Her heart hammered violently, each beat loud enough to echo in her ears. For a few seconds, she didn't even recognize her own room. The dream had been too real, so real it made her want to cry right where she sat. Unable to lie down again, she slowly stepped off the bed. The cold floor sent a tremor through her bare feet. She walked to the small altar in the corner, where she lit a candle every night. The oil lamp flickered weakly, its amber glow trembling as if sensing the fear rising inside her. Diep knelt. Her knees hit the wooden floor, sharp pain shooting up, but she didn't notice. Her hands pressed together, trembling so hard that her fingers clicked against each other. Tears slid down her cheeks, hot and stinging. Her voice broke, each word shaking as if pulled from somewhere deep in her chest. "Please, God, keep him safe, don't let anything happen to him. Please protect James." In the dark room, only the night wind slipping through the tiles, the soft crackle of the lamp, and Diep's shaky breathing blended into the desperate prayer of a woman terrified of losing the person she loves most. The next morning, even though her eyes were still swollen and sore from a restless night, Diep forced herself out of bed as usual. Life, no matter how many worries weigh on it, always pushes people forward. Little Me's sleepy voice drifted out from the room. "Auntie Diep, I don't want to go to school today. I miss Uncle James." Her tiny, wilted voice softened Diep's heart instantly. Diep sat beside her, gently wiping her face and smoothing out her tangled hair into a soft little bun. "Go to school. I'll take you somewhere fun this weekend. Okay?" Nee pressed her lips together, eyes turning red, but she nodded lightly. A quiet, obedient nod, one that made Diep's chest ache. Not just out of affection, but guilt. Because she missed James just as much as the child did. Diep went to the kitchen, boiled water, and made a quick bowl of noodles for breakfast. Steam fogged her glasses, warmth rose against her face, yet her heart remained cold in a way she couldn't explain. While mixing noodles, washing dishes, preparing Nee's clothes, her mind circled around the same two questions. Where is James? And why has he completely disappeared? No messages. No signals. Not even the faintest hint. The uneasiness simmered inside her like embers under ash, just one small gust of wind and it would flare up again. Outside, the sound of a motorbike engine cut off. Phat had returned. He walked in wearing a gentle expression, speaking in a tone far too caring to be genuine. "Miss Diep, are you doing okay? How's little knee? Need my help with anything?" His eyes tried to look kind, like a concerned neighbor, but buried deep inside them was something dark, blurry, and false. Diep kept her distance, replying only out of politeness. She had no idea that every time he visited, the noose tightening around her life pulled one knot closer. Meanwhile, hundreds of kilometers away, James's father continued pulling the strings in silence, as if playing a long, calculated chess game. He tugged at each thread, lightly, but with enough precision to push James and Diep further apart without them ever realizing it. And the one suffering the most was Diep. Standing right in the eye of the storm. Caught between lies, schemes, and invisible lines she didn't even know existed. She only knew one thing. James had vanished. And her heart was unraveling a little more with every passing day. At this moment, James might as well have vanished from the world map, lost somewhere in the vastness of Cambodia. No one knew where he was. No one could reach him. And the most terrifying part, there was no way to confirm whether he was still safe. Meanwhile, back home, Diep and Little Nee were slowly becoming targets of a plan they knew nothing about. Each passing day tightened that invisible trap a little more, quiet, subtle.
Này thì mình đang làm video. Mình đang đặt tên video mà đặt tên video. Mình đang đặt tên video mà mình cũng chưa biết là đặt tên video là cái gì đây nữa.
That smile had begun.
Tạm biệt mọi người nha.